Good evening. Welcome, all of you. We're really, really thrilled to almost fill this auditorium. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We are very, very privileged to have our guest speaker here this evening. What I'm going to do, though, is first we'd like to find a little bit out about you. Can you give me an idea, number of freshmen that might be here tonight? All right. How about sophomores? Okay. Juniors? Seniors? Terrific. Let me kind of go through just a few of the, let's kind of look at colleges. College of Business. Fantastic. How many of you in that College of Business are looking at the entrepreneurial or social entrepreneurial studies? Okay. College of Arts and Letters. Now, okay, let's do the humanities. Who's here from the humanities? How about the arts? How about the social sciences? Fantastic. Okay, we've got architect. We've got College of Science. Excellent. College of Engineering. Wow. This is fantastic, guys. What a really great group. The other thing that I really know that we have here represented, and if you want to raise your hand, that'd be fantastic. I know that we have individuals from the shirt who are here. Would you like to raise your hand or stand up? All right, awesome. One thing I would like is for one of you to stand up, because if a student is interested in talking to you about working with the shirt after this program, who should they talk to? Would one of you stand up and kind of show your face? All right, thank you. Talk to this guy if you're interested in the shirt. We also have Enactus, a social entrepreneurial business project team represented here. Enactus members, would you please stand up? All right, all right. And Alicia would be a great person to go to if you are interested in Enactus after this program. We also have two other groups represented, Inspire. And two of our wonderful Inspire folks are raising their hands way out there. Thank you very much for your work this evening. Other Inspire members? Well, I know. And we'll talk about them in a little bit. And one other group is Net Impact Undergrad. They are also represented here. Net Impact Undergrad? All right. Thank you very, very much, all of you, for being here. The other thing that I would like to do now is to introduce to you the acronym team, MALMAD. MALMAD stands for Making a Living, Making a Difference. And we have quite a team representing several departments from across campus. We have Mike Hebeler with Center for Social Concerns. We have Kim Brennan representing the Masters of Nonprofit Administration out of the College of Mendoza College of Business. We have Carolina Arroyo representing Political Science Department. We have Karen Manier. Karen, where are you? And Karen is representing Higgins Labor Research. We have Rick Ernst. Rick, where are you? Okay, and he is representing the Law School Career Development Office. And I am Anita Reese representing the Career Center. And we're all very, very glad you're here. All right, I'd like to give you just a quick overview of how the evening will go. We're going to have our speaker introduced. He will speak. He will lead you into some Q&A, so come up with your questions while he is speaking. And then we are going to go up to the coffee house to give you a chance to meet our speaker and talk with him personally. Additionally, up at the reception, we will be drawing your ticket numbers for 10 of the Alta Gracia shirts, which will be yours if your ticket number is called and you are present. If there is someone that received both sides of your ticket, if that should have happened, please give the ladies out there or drop the part of your ticket that says, keep this coupon, drop it into the little pink bag that's out there. All right. Finally, I would like to introduce two students who are tremendous leaders of Net Impact Undergrad and Inspire, Jake Babar and Jacqueline Rose, and they will take it from here. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Before we get started, could we have the second through fourth row just scoot towards the center, because I know a few people will be coming in a little late. So just so we could have a few open seats on the end and we don't have to constantly shift. I'd really appreciate it. Sorry for being that guy, but
Thanks, guys. Okay, so we're just going to really briefly introduce our speaker tonight. He graduated with a BS in math at Vanderbilt, and in 1985 he was the NCAA National Bodybuilding champ. Really interesting fun fact. But that ultimately led him to a role as a spokesperson of Gold's Gym, and he ultimately began his apparel career there as well as vice president of sales and marketing, and he worked his way up there, eventually becoming president of the consumer products division. And then in 2001, he left and founded his own company called Knights Apparel, of which he remains the CEO and chairman of today. And Knights Apparel, along with Nike, is one of the largest suppliers of college licensed apparel in the U.S., having contracts with over 600 college campuses. And they also hold exclusive rights to the NBA and NHL.
Knights Apparel opened up a branch called Alta Gracia in the Dominican Republic. It's a factory that respects a lot of its employees' rights as workers and as human beings. It includes the right to a safe and healthy workplace, the right to be treated with dignity and respect on the job, and the right to form a union. He was able to convince his board that this was not only a good idea, but that it was a legitimate business model that paid its workers an actual living wage. Huffington Post named him a game changer in style in 2010, a list that included people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Altagracia is the result of Joe's bravery and dedication to bettering the lives of his employees, and perhaps more significantly, their children, and is something that hardly any other company has come even close to modeling. Recently, the shirt adopted Altagracia as the manufacturer, which is why it has a very close connection with our school.
He's married with 3 children and resides in the Chicago area with his wife as well. And along with, again, being named a Game Changer of the Year in 2010 by Huffington Post, he was also acknowledged as the 2005 Entrepreneur of the Year in the Illinois region by Ernst Young. So, again, as Nita said, we just feel really, really fortunate to have him here tonight. Without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Joe Bozich.
Is this mic working for the, great. Well, I'm impressed with the turnout, so I have a question. How many of you were promised extra credit to come out here and listen to me this evening? Show your hands, be honest, come on. One person. Had to be more, okay, then it's the free t-shirts, because you couldn't have gotten me out in the cold on an evening like this to come and listen to me speak, but I'll do my best. First, I'd like to thank the university and all the many sponsors of this event for inviting me to be here and for inviting me to share with you something that I am very, very passionate about, making a living, making a difference, and to specifically talk to you about our company's unique ethical business model that we call the Altagracia Project, whose mission is to combine our business with universities like Notre Dame to make a life-changing difference in the lives of people that manufacture collegiate apparel. All right, so before we begin, I have another question for you. How many of the people in this room own a shirt from this past football season? Very impressive. Well, you should know that each one of you are already supporting making a living, making a difference, because, as you heard, the shirt this year was produced by Alta Gracia, which is the initiative I'm going to talk to you about this evening. So here's all the topics that I thought I would touch base with you on. First, my journey, a little bit about how I got into the apparel business and who my company is today. Second, I'm going to talk to you about my personal story. I'm going to give you the real behind-the-scenes version of my personal motives and why I'm so passionate about corporate social responsibility or making a living, making a difference, and how that partially led to the birth of our ethical business model that we call Altagracia. And I'm going to tell you, in simple terms, what makes Altagracia so unique and special in this industry. And then I thought I'd share with you a little bit about the business case of Altagracia, some of the logic that led us to believe that doing good and good business could go hand in hand. And then last, we want to talk about some of the results How have labor rights groups responded to this initiative? How have student groups responded? How has the media responded to our attempts to make a living, making a difference? And last and most important, I want to talk to you a little bit about the results of the real impact on the lives of the people, their families, and the community where this collegiate apparel is manufactured. So as we go through this presentation, what I want to encourage you to think about is no matter what you end up doing when you leave the university, I want to challenge you to think about how can you use your sphere of influence, whatever it is, to be a force for good. Because I truly believe that you can make a living and make a difference at the same time. So you don't have to be in the apparel industry to do it. So that's what I'd like you to think about. So first, a little bit about my journey and how I got into the apparel business, which was not planned. It was by accident. It was through the fitness industry, as you heard. I did go to Vanderbilt, where I was a pre-med student. And while I was at Vanderbilt, despite what is standing in front of you today, I did get involved in competitive weightlifting and bodybuilding. In my senior year, I won a national championship, and just so I have a little credibility before we get into the serious topics, I'm actually going to show you a picture of what I used to look like before I got into the apparel business, and then you'll understand how difficult this industry and business is when you see what it's done to me physically. After I won the national championship, I had 3 companies offer to sponsor me, move to California, and basically pay me to work out and endorse their products. So I called up my father, who was a plumber by trade. My grandparents immigrated from Croatia. My father did not graduate high school. And I was the middle of 7 kids, and he thought he was going to get a doctor out of me. So you can imagine that conversation. After 4 years of Vanderbilt, I told him, Dad, I'm not going to go to med school after all. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to move to California and keep weightlifting. It was a very short and unpleasant conversation, and not one that I would recommend for any of you after 4 years at this wonderful institution. So moved out to California, and when I got done competing, I got involved in one of my companies that sponsored me, which was Gold's Gym. And in 1987, I started their consumer products division, which basically we were marketing and manufacturing apparel, nutritional supplements, and fitness equipment into the retail marketplace. So that is how I got into the apparel and retail industry. Later on, I decided to go into business for myself and started the company that I have today, Knights Apparel. So as I mentioned, I started it 13 years ago. And today we are one of the leading suppliers of sports licensed apparel in the United States. We have rights to many professional sport leagues, the National Hockey League, the NBA, NASCAR, Major League Baseball. And we've also become the largest supplier of college apparel in the United States. In 2009, we passed up Nike to have #1 market share in the college apparel industry. I think it's estimated that the market for university logoed products, and this is everything, and Mike, you'll help me out, $3.5, $4 billion annually at retail? 4.5, okay? So it's a big business, it's a big industry, and we've been very fortunate over the past 13 years to develop #1 market share in the apparel segment of that industry. So that's how I got into this business. Before I tell you my personal story, I'm going to show you a picture of what the apparel business has done to me in case anybody is having thoughts about getting into the business. And I'll tell you a quick story. My oldest son, once he figured out, got older and realized, this business that his father built, he came to me one day and he said, Dad, which by the way, he played football here in the Notre Dame Stadium. Not for Notre Dame, against them, but still got to play in the stadium. It was one of his big thrills. So he was in college when we had this conversation, and he came up to me and he said, Dad, you built this business from nothing, and don't you worry about somebody coming along and doing the same thing and, taking your market share away from you? And so I thought he was being serious, and started telling him, well, you have to remember where you came from, and you never take things for granted, and start talking about, and he had this smirk on his face, and then I realized he was messing with me. So I said, all right, Joey, go ahead. And he goes, I have a guaranteed way how you can have no future competitors. It's like, okay. He goes, all you have to do is show people what you used to look like, and when they see what the apparel industry has physically done to you, nobody in their right mind would ever go into that business. So this picture is what my family calls before apparel, and standing in front of you is what they call after apparel. So my son loves to tell me the only thing that I'm really famous for is I'm the only person that you'll ever meet who's lost 70 pounds and his waist has gone up by 6 inches. That's an accomplishment. All right. So on to what we're really here to talk about, making a living, making a difference. And, well, I guess you can't read it all, but so I'm gonna share with you the real story behind the scenes that you won't get to read about, as to why I have such a personal passion for corporate social responsibility and making a living, making a difference. The New York Times did a story on this initiative 2.5 years ago when we launched it. And they asked me the question that I'm most frequently asked, which is, why are you doing this? And of course, there is a business motive. We are a for-profit organization, but they really wanted to know the personal side. Know, why is this, not the business side, but why is this personally so important for you that you would, take this risk with your business and do this? And I gave them the following quote, which was in the New York Times, and I said, I started thinking that I wanted to do something more important with my life than just worry about winning market share, and that had seemed kind of empty after what I had been through. And I wanted to find a way to use my business to impact people that it touched on a daily basis. So I'm going to explain the comment behind that. Everything I'm going to describe to you took place in an 11-month period of time. During the course of building my business, I went through a series of tragic events that really changed my life and changed my views of what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted to do with my business. It started with this 11-month period of time, started with the passing of a family member at 37, leaving 3 small kids behind. And then shortly after that, the youngest of my 7 brothers and sisters was killed. Shortly after that, one of my children became extremely ill, and we had a tough time trying to find the cure. We had a tough time trying to find the correct diagnosis, and we'd go to doctors, and they'd think they knew what it was and say, "Here's how we can treat it," and he would have hope. It didn't work. We'd go to another doctor, and this went on for a long period of time. And I remember he came to me one day, and he said, "Dad, I just can't live like this. If you can't make this pain go away, I can't go on." And eventually he gave up hope and he tried to commit suicide. And while that was going on, another family member was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. And 1 week later, I fell ill, temporarily lost my vision, and find out that I have an incurable disease called multiple sclerosis. So having gone through all that in a very short period of time, what it really made me feel was the first time in my life that I'd ever felt fear. And it was not the fear of being disabled. That was not what scared me. It was the first time in my life that I ever had to think about, what if I can't support and take care of my family? It's never something that I've ever had to think about or worry about in my entire life. I always knew that I could take care of my family. But the good news for me was that I always had hope, because I had been blessed with the resources and had been born where I was born and have had the opportunities that I have, where I always did have hope. I could get the best medical care. I could take time off work. I didn't have to worry about my job or paying bills while I sought help for myself and my family. And what it really made me think about was people just like you and I, because everything I described to you is certainly not unique to me. I'm sure there's not a person in this room that hasn't been impacted in some way with a family or a friend with something that I described to you. but it really made me think about people going through the exact same thing but with no hope. And it was, when I thought about that, I just couldn't imagine it, because I know how difficult that was for me, having all these advantages and having that hope, and I just couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine knowing that maybe there was a treatment out there that could save your son, but it's not available to me, simply because I can't afford it. Or knowing that maybe there wasn't a treatment to, save your spouse from cancer, but could prolong their life because they want to see their kids graduate high school, but not for me because I can't afford it. And then what about on top of that, if you had to deal with the pressures of not being able to put a roof over your family's head, having to worry about paying rent, having to worry about putting food on the table, or having to worry about, can I afford to send my kid to get an education so that they could have hope for a better future? So all of those things inspired me to think about, how could you use your business to provide hope for someone who might not have it today? How could you do that? And I thought about how awesome it would be if you could wake up every day knowing that what you do for a living and work had the ability to make a life-changing difference in the lives of people that your business touches. So that is the personal story behind Alta Gracia, and why I am so committed and passionate about trying to use our business to make a living and make a difference at the same time. And that's really what Alta Gracia is all about. Alta Gracia is about providing hope. It's about using our business. It's about using our business making college apparel. It's about using our business making Notre Dame college apparel to provide hope for the people that manufacture collegiate apparel. And it's also about making a life-changing difference in the lives of the people, their families, and the community where this apparel is manufactured. It's also about a pathway out of poverty. If you asked me, well, what is your social cause? I would tell you it's hope in poverty. We have the ability to create jobs, but the way we're creating the jobs, we have the ability to provide a pathway out of poverty, to change the course of some of these families and their children's future. And I would also tell you that Alta Gracia is about a choice. It's about creating a choice where consumers can know that their purchasing decisions have the ability to really impact and change the lives of the people that manufacture what we consume. And so this is how we're creating hope and changing lives. And this is what really makes Alta Gracia unique and special compared to any other apparel brand or any other apparel factory in the world today. Excuse me, I'm getting a little dry. So what makes this initiative special in our industry is what we did is we went into a community in the Dominican Republic, which, by the way, is where the name Alta Gracia comes from. The name of this, I was talking to somebody earlier who was involved in doing some things in Haiti. That's originally where I wanted to set up the first factory and start this initiative 2 years ago. But for a lot of infrastructure reasons, it wasn't possible, and I got introduced to this little community in the Dominican Republic called Alta Gracia. And this used to be a thriving free trade zone, manufacturing products. A lot of workers, thousands of employees, and the whole town had been decimated because the people that owned the factories had pulled out and moved to a cheaper place of production. And so all these workers were left without jobs. I think there was, when we 97% unemployment. It was staggering. So what we did is we went into this community and we built a factory. And what we do that's different is we pay all of our workers no less than what's called a living wage. So my simple way of describing that would be, we asked and answered the following question: how much money would every employee need to receive in order to be able to meet all of life's necessities, not just for themselves as an individual, but for their entire family. So that means we did a living wage study. We hired a third-party group to do this study. And that means we came up with, how much do they need for their family, for food, water, housing, energy, clothing, medical care, child care, transportation, and education. We built into their wages enough money so they could afford to send their kids to school, because we believe that the long-term way of breaking the cycle of poverty is through education. So what that means is, when we finished with the study, it basically meant that when a consumer is going to be purchasing this apparel, wages from the proceeds are going to go to the employees that pay them 340% higher wages than what is required by law. That's what the study said. It said, to do what you want to do, you are going to have to pay 340% higher wages than the other apparel factories in this country do. So that's what it translates into. And to my knowledge, this is still the first and only apparel factory in the world that has met this standard. So now what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the business case behind doing good and doing good business. I want you to imagine that you're on my board of directors. And while we are a private company, I have some very large institutional investors today, and I go into the boardroom, and these are people that have invested tens of millions of dollars into my business, and I walk in and say, I got this great idea. We'll go in a third world country and we'll invest $1 million into a factory, and we'll pay all of our employees 340% higher wages than what we're required to by law, guaranteeing that we can't be competitive with any other apparel factory in the industry, and we'll build a business and brand around it. You should have seen the looks. One of the guys actually said to me, who knew my background, he was, Joe, whatever you were putting in your body when you were doing that bodybuilding stuff, you finally lost it. But fortunately, we did our homework. To me, the second biggest fear in my life was starting this initiative. And the reason I say that, it wasn't from a financial standpoint, although I would have had a lot of egg in my face and embarrassment if it didn't work, and certainly they wouldn't have been happy with losing over $1 million. The fear was starting this, creating this hope, and then finding out it didn't work, and then having to take that hope away if it didn't succeed, if it wasn't sustainable. So to try and protect against that happening, and I had to do a lot of business research to come up with the business case behind making a living, making a difference, the business case behind doing good and good business, the business case behind how profit and purpose can work together. So fortunately for me, there's been a lot of research and studies done on consumer response to ethically responsible brands. And the more homework that I did, the more I became convinced that not only is this the right thing to do, this does make sense from a business standpoint. There are so many studies that have been done by many universities, and this is just one such study that I used to help present the business case. And it talked about global consumers' voice demand for greater corporate responsibility. And they found that 94% of consumers are likely to switch brands to one associated with a good cause when price and quality are about the same. 94%. I was like, well, even if they're wrong, and it's 50%, but that's a staggering number. And they also said the bottom line from our research is consumers around the world want companies to be a force for good, and in the way they do business and the way they devote resources to address societal issues. And last, they found that consumers today more and more are reporting that they're activists, and they will punish brands and companies that don't act responsibly, and they reward companies that do. So this is typical of the research that we found. And then besides this research, fortunately, there were real live business cases and brands that already exist that prove that there's a large and growing market for companies and brands that want to make a living making a difference. So whether their mission is environmental issues or social issues overall the sales of ethically responsible brands has turned into, this was as of last year, was a $57 billion industry annually. One of the examples that I gave their board was the fair trade industry. In 2000, that industry basically had started. There wasn't a market, and 12 years later, it's a $6 billion industry, part of that $57 billion market. So you have Tom Shoes, I'm sure you've heard of them. They've built a brand based upon being socially responsible. Their mission is to buy a pair of shoes, and they give a pair of shoes to a child in need. So there was a lot of business cases to suggest that this could be successful if we supported it. So it was based upon that business research and personal motives that we launched the Alta Gracia brand on college campuses a little over 2 years ago. So now we'll talk about some of the results. What's been the real impact of this initiative? How have labor rights groups responded? This quote is from the WRC, which is one of the largest labor rights watchdog groups in the United States. Notre Dame is a member of the Workers' Rights Consortium, as many other universities are, and they tend to be pretty critical of companies like us. And this is what they came out and said about this initiative after they got involved and saw that we were going to do it. And they said the simple fact is that no major apparel brand has ever done what Knights Apparel is doing at the Alta Gracia factory. And one of the things that I've learned about trying to make a living, making a difference, is transparency is the key to credibility. So what we did when we launched this initiative is if we provided unfettered access to our company, to our people, to our books and records, and every month this organization, the WRC, comes in and they audit the company, they meet with our employees, they audit the books and records, and then and I asked them to, I said, I'll do this, but only if you will do this auditing and then you will publicly post the results on your website. So we're either going to find out that we're a fraud and we're making these claims and we're not doing it, or you're going to tell the biggest critics in the industry that, not from me, but from you, that it's real, that this is really happening. So that is what takes place, and transparency is the key to earning people's trust when you're trying to get involved with an initiative like this. How have student groups responded to Alta Gracia? Usually the headlines, since I've been in this industry, about a college apparel manufacturing practices are about sit-ins and demonstrations, and the students in the media have been talking about poverty wages, forced overtime, severe union repression, sweatshops, and slave labor. I mean, these were the conversations that I participated in as one of the biggest suppliers of college apparel in the United States. I sat in many meetings on university campuses with students, labor rights groups, university administrations, talking about this topic. And I was always fairly defensive because I felt like, I'm doing things, I know that I'm moving things forward. I'm doing more than what is required of me. This was before Alta Gracia, yet I felt that I was being attacked. And I guess when I stopped being defensive and I really listened to the students, this is what I heard. What I heard them really saying is, I want to buy apparel to show allegiance and pride in my university, but I also want to take pride in the conditions under which it's made. And I have to say that it's the passion, a big part of the reason that I moved forward and felt this could be successful was from the passion of the students. And I felt if there's this passion, they've been campaigning this hard and this long to improve these conditions, then there's a great likelihood that it will be successful. So today, these same student groups are making headlines about support and collaboration. This is a typical response from student groups regarding our initiative to try and make a living making a difference. Today, these same groups that were criticizing me and my company and challenging us, and justifiably so, challenge us, today are talking about collaboration and working together to promote this initiative. This is another student group, United Students for Fair Trade. They had a national conference this year with over 200 campuses represented. And at the end of that, I found out that they made the decision that they were going to make awareness regarding Alta Gracia their main campaign for this year. And they said they chose to endorse Alta Gracia because it sets a higher standard for social justice. These pictures are from some of the students. We have a lot of student groups. I know there's a couple here today that have visited the Alta Gracia factory, and we have an open door policy. We have an open door policy for student groups, labor rights groups, administrations. We're saying anybody who wants to come visit, we'll open the company to you, and you can see for yourself. You can meet with our employees and the people and their families. Some of the student groups actually stay with our employees in their home when they're there and really find out what this is all about. And again, it's all part of transparency. And so we're very proud of the support that we've received from these students groups regarding this initiative. How has the media responded to trying to make a living, making a difference? You know, as I mentioned before, most of the media around apparel manufacturing has been very negative. If you read the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, there's been a lot of articles recently about sweatshop labor, fires in Bangladesh and Pakistan where a lot of people lost their lives, and some big companies were involved in manufacturing in these facilities. And just this morning, I was forwarded an article just this morning that talked about our sweatshop conditions racing backward. And this human rights director said yes. So there's still a lot of scrutiny around this issue, and those of what the headlines have been. But since we launched this initiative, these are some of the headlines that have come about. Joe Klein from Time magazine wrote an article, and he said, buy this product. What's the opposite of a boycott, a boycott? And then he went on to tell about what he had learned about this. Clothes that make a difference. Altagracia Apparel makes a stand against poverty. So these are typical headlines that we've received. I know in the introduction they mentioned that the Huffington Post every year nominates what they call game changers. And we were nominated with a very elite group of people. And after 3 million votes, we were chosen as the ultimate game changer in our category. And none of this media was paid for. None of this media was paid for. None of this media was sought out. And I think the reason we've received so much positive press is I really think the media and consumers are sick and tired of stories about scandal and corporate greed. And I think there's a lot of media that's happy to tell a story about a company and an industry trying to combine their business and show that profit and purpose can work together. Some of the retail results. What's happened? I mean, this was the big question. Yeah, when you put this product out there, nobody's really going to care. It's not going to sell. This one bookstore has sold over $1 million worth of Alta Gracia product on their campus alone since we started this initiative. And I'm also very proud to say that when we started this, we had no business, no customers, and 2 years later, we're in over 800 campus bookstores around the country. Notre Dame and the Shirt Committee have blessed us with the honor of making the shirt for this coming year as well. So this is the second year that we'll be involved with the shirt with Alta Gracia. And I also want you to know, since we're here, that this is the single largest commitment from any university to the Alta Gracia initiative that's come from Notre Dame. So I know we have some members of the Shirt Committee here, and I have my dear friend who runs the licensing department from Notre Dame. When I started this initiative, I had many people tell me that I was crazy, and Mike Lowe, who runs the licensing business for U University, who's sitting right here, was one of the few people that from the very beginning said, if you're going to do it, I'll support you, back you up, and that's what we received from your university. So I'd like all of us to give a thank you to Mike and your shirt committee I want to thank you for your commitment to making a difference, making a living, because we never would have gotten this off the ground. It never could have been a reality without the support of groups like the Shirt Committee and universities like Notre Dame. You know, we have something very, very important in common, Notre Dame and my company in Alta Gracia, and that's a commitment to social justice. I know that's in the mission statement of the university, and it's our mission statement, so we have something very important in common. The picture on the right is the president of Fowlettes. Fowlettes is one of the largest bookstore retailers in the United States. They own and run your campus bookstore here at Notre Dame. And that's the picture of Chuck Follett receiving an award from the President of the Dominican Republic for Notre Dame and your bookstore's support of the Alta Gracia initiative. So that's the type of results that we have gotten on many different fronts since we started this initiative. But the most important result is what's been the real impact of this initiative on the people, their families, and the community. And I just have a few quotes in here from a couple of our employees that really represent, and I know some of you who went to visit the factory, you probably have heard a lot more stories, but what they say their work making college apparel under these conditions has meant to them. The term living wage generally is translated as salario digno. And in the Dominican, in Alta Gracia, what that really means to them, it stands for a wage with dignity. That's how they describe their work. And they said it means the right to having health. Living dignified means having the security of money and not living day to day, not knowing if you'll be able to make ends meet and not leaving everything up to chance. Another quote from one of the employees said, to live dignified means to have a bathroom inside. It means being able to eat 3 times a day, being able to get an education, and being able to have your children get an education. A lot of things that I took for granted for a long, long time in my life. So this is what's really, really, really rewarding about this initiative is, and if you spoke to the peoples, if you visited the factory, you hear similar stories like this. What they would tell you is their job, this initiative, their work making collegiate apparel means the difference between their children going to bed hungry at night or not. It means the difference between having clean water to drink or not. It means the difference between being able to afford medicine when they're sick or not. And the most common theme I hear from parents in the factory is it means the difference between my children being able to pursue their dreams and have hope for a better future or not. So you're almost done having to listen to me. This is a picture of our Altagracia family. And what I wanted to do now, I actually had planned and I had tried to, I wanted to Skype in a few of our workers so that you could hear from them directly. Because they're the ones that are really important in this initiative, and they can tell the story about what making a living, making a difference means better than I can, but we'll have to settle with this video that CBS heard about this initiative, and they flew down the Dominican and did a little short documentary. I think it's 3-4 minutes long, and they broadcast it to 6 million high school and middle school students around the country, so I wanted to play that for you.
When you're rooting for your favorite college sports team, you may think wearing a college t-shirt or hat is a good way to show off your pride. But as Adriana Diaz explains, it's also a way to change the lives of those in a struggling country.
Duke University's school store has all the basics: hoodies, tees, and lots of school pride. But there's one thing they have in stock that might surprise you: messages from the factory workers who made the gear on the shelves.
These clothes have changed my family's life. I hope you enjoy wearing them, she says. Wow, that's pretty cool.
The workers are from the Alta Gracia clothing factory in the Dominican Republic, a Spanish-speaking country that shares an island with Haiti. All these clothes have the Alta Gracia label that tells shoppers about the people they're supporting by buying these clothes.
I personally would go for cheaper clothes, or, oh, I have the best deal. But then to look at this and go, well, it's only a few extra dollars to me, and it's a whole change of life for them. That's a big deal.
So why are these clothes life-changing? Well, I went to the Dominican Republic to find out. I met Maritza Vargas at the Alta Gracia factory, which makes clothes for more than 350 U.S. colleges. She makes a living making college t-shirts that eventually get tagged with her picture. How does it make you feel that your picture is on all the t-shirts and clothes that get sold?
I feel like I was Jennifer Lopez, totally famous.
How has your life changed since you started working here at Altagracia?
Well, my life has changed very drastically. I'm better able to feed my children. My son can go to university. He had to stop studying until I was able to work to send him to college.
That's because the Alta Gracia factory is trying something new, paying workers what's called a living wage. So what workers earn is based on the amount of money they actually need to support a family.
Now I can buy cheese, butter, condiments, ketchup, mayonnaise, which my kids like, but we didn't have.
So before you didn't have ketchup in your house. Antes no tenía ketchup en su casa.
No, we didn't have ketchup in my house. Having ketchup was like reaching for the stars.
Maritza's living wage is based on a calculation made by the Workers' Rights Consortium, a nonprofit group that helps workers around the world.
We go through all of the basic categories, so food and nutrition for the family, housing, so beds and sheets and towels, education, healthcare, whatever you can imagine that you need in order to make ends meet in a normal month, that's included in the living wage.
That amount is $2.83 an hour in the Dominican Republic, more than 3 times the minimum wage or the amount required by law, which is 85 cents. It's that low minimum wage that attracts companies from other countries because it's cheap to make their products here. But it can also attract sweatshop operations, where people work long hours in poor conditions and where companies don't pay minimum wage or obey labor laws. Something Altagracia is trying to change.
This is the first time in the apparel industry where workers are being compensated with salaries that are enough for them really to get by.
It's helped Maritza, who made minimum wage at her old factory job, and she says it just wasn't enough to pay the bills.
I was thinking of separating the family, stop renting our house, to be able to pay little by little what I owed.
This is the 2-bedroom house Maritza almost lost, a tight squeeze for her family of 5.
This is where my kids sleep. Oh, it's so ugly. This is where we bathe. There's no water at the moment because the water's cut. Sometimes it gets cut and then it comes back.
But now that Maritza's salary has tripled at Altagracia, she says everything has changed. Her son is back in school, and after class, he can be seen on the family's new computer, something they could never afford before. Do you have Facebook?
Yes.
Sí.
Yes.
Me gusta.
I like to chat on Facebook.
And her son will soon be updating his Facebook status from somewhere else, because the family is moving into the house of their dreams.
We're going up to my new house. Oh, I'm going to live like a rich person. This is going to be my son's room. Here, they're going to have privacy. This is their own bathroom that's in perfect condition. And here, I'm going to have a terrace. This is all amazing. In the other place right now, there isn't water to bathe. But here, we have water. Now that problem is solved.
Maritza says this is all possible because of the people who buy Altagracia's products on U.S. campuses.
It's in their hands that we're able to continue to send our kids to school so that they can be professionals and make it out of the poverty that we're all in.
If you want to practice your Spanish skills and hear Maritza using her own voice without the English dubbing, head over to channel1.com.
I'll screw this up.
Well, that does it for our show today. I'm Jessica Kumari, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Whenever I see that, I'm just like, and she goes, we have water. So anyway, to conclude, when we started this initiative, these were some of the questions we asked a little over 2 years ago. Can doing good and good business go hand in hand? Can profit and purpose go together? Will consumers buy a product and a brand that is marketed based upon being socially conscious? And most important, can you really change a life by buying and manufacturing a T-shirt? And today I can tell you I know the answer to all these questions is absolutely yes. So as a business leader and as future business leaders, why should we care about making a living, making a difference? There's this quote that I keep in front of me all the time that reminds me because no matter what our cause, no matter what issue you're passionate about, it says, once we know and we're aware, we are responsible for our action and our inaction. We can do something about it, or ignore it, either way, we're still responsible. So I can tell you that I've been in the apparel business for 26 years. We've had a significant amount of what people would consider success in the business world, and I can tell you this is the most rewarding initiative that I've ever been a part of. Trying to make a living and make a difference at the same time makes me feel like my life and my business have real purpose. That's what it means to me. So I thank you for your time today. I thank you for your interest in Alta Gracia and what our company and your university are doing to try to make a real impact in the lives of people that manufacture collegiate apparel. So thank you. So with that, you are free to grill me on whatever you choose. Yes, sir. I hope so. I mean, the goal is for us to show that making a living and making a difference isn't just a good moral thing to do, it's good business practice. So I hope so. I think a lot of it will depend on our success. I mean, we're in the very beginning stages, as I mentioned. We launched this 2 years ago. So this is a company and a business that is in its infancy. It's something that has never been tried before. I know now, with the results that we've had, it is a sustainable business model. What will determine, like anything else, consumer demand ultimately will determine how widespread this becomes, how big it becomes. Hopefully it will force us to have to expand not only the Altagracia facility, but our dream is to open more factories like this in other parts of the world. I always say that poverty does not know race, it doesn't know gender, it doesn't know religion, and it doesn't care. So there's a lot of places around the world where this type of initiative could do a lot of good. When other people do go into it, competition is good. This will be good competition. So I look forward to it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any intention of moving some of your, because you said you had the rights to the NHL, for the NBA, for the MLB. Do you have any intention of moving that towards more of an Altagracia type of strategy?
March 7th, I have a meeting with the National Hockey League in New York, and after 3 years of kind of watching, I've been wondering to see, who's going to be the first professional sport league that's going to sit back and say, maybe this is something we should get involved in. I'm having some conversations with the NBA as well, but we have a specific meeting, as I mentioned, just specifically on this initiative. And we'll see. I can be persuasive when I have to. So we'll. Oh yeah. No, that's what this meeting is about. I have a great relationship with them. We're one of their biggest licensees, and what I want to try and convince them of is, I had a conversation over dinner with one of the students. This is not a fad. This is a movement. You guys have convinced me. You guys have convinced me that there is no point in my lifetime or in my children's lifetime or probably their children's lifetime that I think people are ever going to say, let's become less concerned about the environment. Let's become less concerned about being socially and ethically responsible. I don't think that's going to happen. So, what I have to do is convince them, do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be on the front end? Or do you want to be a follower? So hopefully we'll have one of the pro leagues to have an announcement that they're jumping in with us pretty soon. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it that you chose the living wage as a business model rather than like a Tom's business model, like the one-for-one or some other?
You know, I say this a lot. I think Tom's is a great cause. I've met with the company and prior to even starting this to get some learnings from what they've done. My goal wasn't to, I mean, we could have gone in this community and wrote a check every year and made donations. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to try and create a sustainable business model. I'm not giving them anything. I'm creating an opportunity. They are the ones that have so much pride in their work and what they're doing to take care of their families and their children. That's the model that I wanted to set up. I've just been blessed with the relationships in the business to create that opportunity for them. Again, going back to my personal story, when you know that, again, it was that fear of having to think, what if I couldn't support my family? When you're writing a check, and this was just for me, and I'm not saying anything negative about any other initiative or any charity. They're all great work. But I wanted to empower the people so that they knew I am able to support and take care of my family by my actions and what I do. Yes?
You said that your company is private. How much of a factor do you think that is in selling through initiatives like this in publicly traded companies on a wide scale?
I've been asked that question a lot. And unfortunately, I've never been public, so I do not know the pressures that go along with being a public company, and constantly having to deal with the pressures of quarterly earnings in the street. But let's face it, there's a lot of public companies that, it might not be this initiative in the apparel industry, but there's a lot of public companies that are very socially responsible, environmentally responsible. I would imagine it would be easier that I could sit in a room with my board and, we can sit and make the decision and know that, hey, we're going to lose money for a period of time until we can prove that this business model is sustainable, and not be punished for it because it's just us. I mean, so it has to be, I would think, easier from that standpoint. Yes.
So you keep describing Alta Gracia as an initiative within Knights Apparel. So one question, then a follow-up question. So does that mean that it only handles a portion of your manufacturing?
Correct.
Okay. So have you found that Alta Gracia, so you had all this external data to support that these ethical initiatives actually can improve marketing and that sort of thing, and consumers will choose it more often. Have you found that in your own initiative that this initiative's profitability and gross margin is comparable to your manufacturing outside of this initiative?
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
And we knew that going into one of the thesis from the studies said, if price and quality is comparable, 94% of the consumers will choose that brand that's associated with a good cause. Now, there's been I have a good friend named Michael Hiscox at Harvard, who all of his research is on consumer response to cause-related brands. And he has done a lot of studies that, and he's done it in the apparel industry with some very large retailers, where he has tested the theory of if you are being socially responsible and it's believable, he's come to the conclusion that actually consumers expect to pay a slight premium, and that by charging a slight premium, it's almost more credible, and therefore it actually lifted sales. I didn't want to test that theory and wanted to go with, it was obviously much more logical if we said, hey, we're not going to ask the consumer to pay a premium, which means that in order to do that, because our costs are so much higher, obviously, that means that we're working off of lower profit margins, for this brand. But that was a decision that we made as a business to do that, so we wouldn't have to ask the consumer to pay a premium. Yes.
Is the NHL or like places where the Knights Apparel distributes to now does accept like an Altagracia model? Would that take away jobs from maybe factories in the United States, or what would happen to those distribution centers now?
We have, well, it would take, in our business, if we had a certain amount of the apparel that we ship in the NHL today, convert to the Altagracia, would take market share from contract factories that we do business with, clearly, unless it turns into a new market of consumers that aren't currently a fan of that sports team today. Is it taking jobs away from the United States? I can tell you that unfortunately most of the apparel manufacturing left the United States a long time ago. And I have been challenged, well, that's a great thing. Why don't you do living wage here in the United States? And that's it would be another great initiative, but that would be testing a completely different theory, which was, will consumers not pay a slight premium, but will they pay a huge premium to support it? And again, as I mentioned, one of my fears when I started this was the worst thing to me would be starting this initiative, no matter where it's at. And let's face it, there's poverty in every country. And this would be great to do any place. But my biggest fear would be to start this up, provide that hope to the people that are getting these jobs, and then say, hey, it didn't work. Can't sustain, it's not a sustainable business model. We do have another initiative in our company that is a Made in USA initiative. We're not testing Made in USA living wage, but we are launching a Made in USA college initiative this next fall, and we're going to find out how the consumer responds to it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. We do business with about 29 factories in 13 different countries. So it depends on the product category, whether it's men's or kids or women's, and what fabrics it's made out of determine what countries you do business in. And so they're, it's broad-based factories around the world. Yes?
I just had a question regarding Knights Apparel as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed you said that you're bigger than Nike.
No. Nope. Not even close. Not even close to Nike's size. In the college, they have a college division, and in 2009 we had #1 market share in college apparel.
So, given that, have you noticed that this Alta Gracia project has affected the rest of your business in a positive fashion? In terms of consumer respect and other people that will supply you products?
I think that it is. I think it's been positive from our business. Besides what I showed on here, certainly we received, positive response from groups that would typically be critical of a company like ours in the industry and challenge us. Hey, you're not doing enough. These other factories that we do business, one of the reasons that we have credibility with these groups, but they still, and I got defensive, and they still felt like, they were challenging me, because even the factories that we don't own, we've created partnerships with factories that none of them do what's required. They do more than what's required. Are any of them doing a living wage? No. And if we tried going to those big factories and starting living wage, it would require more than Knights Apparel, because in most of these big factories we represent an X% of these big apparel factories' production. So I'm going off on a tangent. I'll get back to your question, but if we had convinced, and I had a couple of factories say, yeah, we'll sign up for this, Joe, but the risk was, if they signed up for it and implemented it, and all their other customers didn't agree to go along with it, because their prices are going to go up because of the living wage as well, it could put them out of business. So that's why we decided we've got to build a factory from scratch where we're taking 100% of the risk. If it's our risk, you know, I'm not endangering the livelihood in case I'm wrong of some third party. So we've certainly gotten credit from labor rights groups, media. I think it's been beneficial within my own company here in the United States. I have certainly seen a positive effect of what we're doing on the morale of my employees in the United States. I think it really makes them feel good to know that they're working for a company that's willing to forego profit to try and make a difference. So there's been, you know, a lot of benefits to our company outside of, you know, getting more revenue. Yes?
Just kind of a follow-up on that tangent, I guess, and some of these slides. On one of the slides you mentioned how the workers at Alta Gracia are, like, they're recognized as or they're given the right to unionize.
Mm-hmm.
Are employees at the other factories all recognized? They're, like, given the opportunity to form a union as well?
In the Dominican?
No, at, like, the other factories.
Other factories that we do business with? Yeah, you can't do business with our company unless you have a policy as owners and management regarding freedom of association. And that's something that's part of it's part of your university code of conduct, it's part of our code of conduct, and so nobody can even be set up to be a supplier with us, whether they're free to unionize or, you know, freedom of association is part of what they believe in, then they can't do business with us.
Let's do one more question before we continue the conversation upstairs.
Yes.
How many employees are at the Altagracia factory?
135 workers and about 550 people indirectly between their family.
Oh, okay. Including the family.
Yeah.
Also, is profitability the biggest obstacle to setting up more factories with living wages?
No, I think the biggest obstacle will be understanding what the consumer demand and awareness is for an initiative like this. You can set up all the factories you want, but if you don't have the business on a continual basis to sustain it, then, you know, you would eventually go out of business. So I think it's going to be like, you know, the fair trade movement when it started. I mean, ultimately it will be, you know, the sales and the consumer demand at retailers that will make the retailers either decide, you know what, this works, we should invest more in it, we should allocate more of our real estate and more of our business to initiatives like this. It will be determined by that. I think that will be our biggest challenge long term in determining how big it can be.
I know there are plenty more questions, but I do want to honor the reception time together.
Okay.
How about one more round of applause for Joe Bozich?
Thank you.